Howdy folks, Doc here with Last Best Tool, and everybody knows about the 9-inch Klein Lineman. It is a classic. It should be in your toolbox, tool bag, tool belt. It's just a fabulous plier. It just gives you superpowers when it comes to manipulating things, especially wire, anything that fits in its jaws. And of course, there is the 8-inch version, and the 8-inch is quite popular. It's sold in stores. It's something you can just walk in and pick up. Great size. Maintains a lot of the superpowers. Well, a lot of people didn't know that there was a 7-inch, and the 7-inch plier basically gives you an awful lot of talents as a small plier. It does not lose out really in any way except less compared to especially the 9-inch. You know, less leverage, less reach, maybe a little bit less control when you're trying to manipulate a larger object, but still fabulous, and you really have to exceed the threshold of what this is capable of before you need a bigger, heavier plier, because that is just a wonderful size. And honestly, it's still floating out there as my plier of the year. We'll see if that sticks. But did you know there was also a 6-inch version? Check that out. There they are. 9, 8, 7, 6. This is a more of a vintage one. You can tell by the logo, obviously the Klein Tools USA. The gentleman here is not wearing a hard hat. He's wearing more of a sun hat. The pole could be potentially a telegraph pole, an early electrical pole, a basic, telephone line pole. You know, it's a lot different. We compare that to the new Klein logo. Here you've got a little bit more safety gear, potentially, a hard hat, insulators, more sophisticated design. But this is if you can believe that, a 6-inch lineman. Same style. As you see here, this one's been cleaned. It's a vintage. Big cutting jaws. You know, that seems to be, that's something I kind of like about this. They really are keeping a large cutting jaw even on a smaller plier, and they work. Simple design. This area here can be used as a wire stripper in the old days by just crushing the insulation. I did a video on that about, what actually makes a lineman plier, and it's this cross-hatched or very aggressive gripping surface, this large set of cutting knives, and this space here that allows you to smash wires. That was an early wire stripper. You can also get variations on the head. This is a New England or an NE style, as you can see listed here. It just has to do with the design once you get up around the head of the plier, whether or not you can ream with it, where the sharp edges are. But a 6-inch plier. I thought this one was small. I was showing it in my hand. And now this guy seems like a large full-size set of pliers. But here's something interesting. Here's a piece of Romex. You can see, 3 12-gauge copper wires running through it. Here's the 7-inch plier. And I was thinking, I could just snip. Maybe not all day. My hand might get kind of tired compared to the 9-inch, but it's definitely a one-handed operation. I was trying that with this one, and here's the model numbers, the 201-6 and then NE on this one, just like those. New England. And anyway, so I've got this in here, and I was squeezing one-handed, and I thought, man, it's not going through. These are probably fairly dull. And the way that I know that is because I can just put them in this and easily snip it. I mean, with very little force. So I assume that's dull, but is there still room to go down? Well, I don't know if Klein does it. Let me throw in something I learned in the Klein factory tour, and that is when Klein goes to build a pair of pliers, one of the things that they have to do is decide how popular it'll be. How many do you have to make? And then you allocate the resources for the plier manufacturing based on those projections. So if something's a really hot seller and they weren't expecting it, they can't meet demand right away because they haven't allocated enough factory and machine speed and all kinds of stuff, maybe even robotics, to build them. If they've got a really popular plier, they can ramp that up and really put a lot of effort into it and produce a lot of units. If it's something that they may not, and then like this one also, I think there's some finishing that takes place in Mexico, so they are outsourcing some of the work, and that's understandable given the factory space required to produce something very similar but completely different in a lot of ways than the larger ones. But on the smaller ones, if they don't think they're going to sell that many, then there's like a third tier of, a small machine, low production, not as many people associated with it, etc. And that may have happened here. So I don't know if this is actually in production, if it can be ordered. But I got a vintage one. But anyway, back to the cutting of this thing. So I was thinking this must be kind of dull because I can take this. This is a little pair of Knipex. It's even over an inch smaller. So if we've got our 6 to 7, you can see what this looks like. It's not quite a 5, but this is still one of my favorite pliers. Just an amazing tool. I can put this guy on the Romex, even though the Romex doesn't even fit. Look at that. And I can crunch down, and it cut what it could and snipped off the rest. Look at that thing. This is a 110 millimeter plier. Look at that. Just snips right through this stuff. So I thought, well, what if I tried it on something round? So I've got some, whatever this stuff is, you electricians out there, TWN 75 FT1. Anyway, it's this copper. It's a hefty cable here. I put it in this one. This is the 7-inch. Nothing, no problem whatsoever. I do it in my 6-inch. One hand as hard as I can. 2 hands, it ain't happening. I mean, I might have been able to. One thing you can do, I realized, is I can wiggle this and eventually kind of get through it, sort of rip it off. But here's my little tiny Knipex. This is the 08, 05, 110. I'll put a link below. And I can drop this thing in. Pow! Amazing. Let's go up to the, I'll do the 8, because anything above that, drop that in. And just zips right through, no problem. So, we have got a 9, an 8, a 7, a 6. I think it would be cool if this one was reproduced by Klein as well. This is a multi-plier, I guess they call it, because it's got the bolt grabbing up there and it does not have the cross hatch. It's got a single way of cutting, but excellent knives. Beautiful design. Love this plier. But anyway, if you didn't know it, there is a 6-inch too. So the saga continues. And with that, Doc out.